of you who wish to taste death? Step forward!
What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to the series where we're counting down the top Dynasty Warriors characters as of the latest game. Coming in at number 40, closing off the 40s, we have the mighty barbarian himself, Zhang Fei. Zhang Fei is a general who served Liu Bei. His bravery and might were praised to be second to Guan Yu, but he was also cruel and wouldn't hesitate to punish insubordination with beatings or the death penalty. Romance of the Three Kingdoms depicts him in a positive light, yet his short temper and alcoholism caused his downfall. Said to be a mighty warrior capable of fighting thousands of enemies, Zhang Fei was the youngest among the three Oath brothers and was one of the 5 Tiger Generals of Shu. Before we jump into how Zhang Fei has changed over the last 20 years, take a look at the popularity polls to see why Zhang Fei is up here at number 40. In the first popularity polls, Zhang Fei received 381 votes out of a total of 75,000, putting him at the 65th spot. In the second popularity poll, Zhang Fei is going to jump up all the way to the 36th spot. And then in my personal ranking, Zhang Fei is going to jump up to the 25th spot. So for me personally, Zhang Fei is the highest among the 3 lists because I got to put some respect on Zhang Fei. He's a decent character. I've always liked his weapon and the way he fights. And of course, being an OG of the Dynasty Warriors series, making his playable debut all the way back in Dynasty Warriors 1. He's just a character that I've always respected and I've always liked. He's not my favorite per se in the Shu Kingdom, but he's definitely a character I get around to playing after I go through my main characters, and I've never had a problem with Zhang Fei. In a sense, I've always liked really his weapon style, and that's really what drew me to him, and we'll talk more about that as we get to his weapon style. Before we jump into how Zhang Fei has changed over the last 20 years within the Dynasty Warriors series, let's talk about who Zhang Fei is for people who don't know. Zhang Fei was a military general serving under the warlord Liu Bei in the late Eastern Han Dynasty and early Three Kingdoms period of China. Him and Guan Yu were among the earliest to join Liu Bei, and they shared a brotherly relationship with their lord and accompanied him on most of his early exploits. Zhang Fei fought in various battles on Liu Bei's side. Zhang Fei was a loud and brash man who thrives in a brawl. He was stubborn and prideful, but he never wants to turn his back on the enemy and is easily motivated into anger. He displays a wide range of emotions in his brothers, as he's known to be cheerful one moment and deeply saddened the next. Though his judgment may be questionable, his heart is in the right place and he usually knows when to be practical. Though a menace on the battlefield, Zhang Fei is deeply tied to his family. He is fiercely loyal to his Oath brothers and wouldn't hesitate to lay down his life for them. Out of the trio, he is the one who will most likely remark and joke about his brother's serious behavior. Liu Bei had constantly warned Zhang Fei about his barbaric behavior, and he once told him that his behavior will get him into trouble. Zhang Fei ended up not listening to him, and then eventually ended up being part of his downfall. With that being said, we got a lot to cover here with Zhang Fei. Let's go ahead and jump into how he's changed over the past 20 years within the Dynasty Warriors series. Alright, first let's start off with Zhang Fei's appearance. Zhang Fei towered over others and had a muscled, imposing stature. Among the cast, Zhang Fei is probably one of the characters that had a very similar appearance throughout all of the Dynasty Warriors series, except for like the first game. He looks completely different, but from like Dynasty Warriors 2 all the way up into the latest game, I think Zhang Fei looks pretty much the same. He has pretty much the same look. Even in Dynasty Warriors 6, where the characters sometimes look a little different, it still kind of fit him. He still kind of looked like Zhang Fei, but he's pretty much maintained the same look pretty much throughout his entire playthrough within the series. I can't complain too much about the way he looks. My favorites is probably going to be Dynasty Warriors 3, Dynasty Warriors 5, and just because I played the game so much, Dynasty Warriors 6. Those are probably my 3 favorites. I've, just gotten used to it. For anyone who was a Zhang Fei fan back in the early days, would have no problem playing him. I think he looks just fine. Definitely shows that barbaric nature. He's got that intimidating, snarling looking factor. You can see it in his facial expressions when he talks or when he's angry. Alright, moving on to his weapon style. So this is probably one of the main draws for me for the character himself. I've always enjoyed double handed weapons, spears, pikes, halberds, staves. I've always enjoyed the double handed weapons, and that's how I was kind of drawn to Zhang Fei because of the way he fights. And throughout the series, he pretty much maintains the same weapon. He basically has his Viper Spear, or a double bladed Viper Spear, and it's pretty much the same weapon. One weapon has 2 blades on it. The other one just has 1. Pretty much has a similar move style through most of the games with his weapon because it remains the same throughout the entirety of the game. It's a signature weapon for him. The snake look that the weapon has, it's a very iconic weapon for Zhang Fei. His missile attacks for most of the games were pretty cool. I think the earlier games were a lot better than the later games. The later games, they got a little bit more simplistic and they were pretty You know, they're pretty easy to use, very simple. I like some of the earlier ones versus the ones he has now. They're still very powerful, but the older games, I think that showed more of that imposing stature, that intimidating factor that, you know, Zhang Fei was known for, not running away from a fight, being there to fight one-on-one, just like you saw from the intro, taking down multitudes of enemies. Just, he's there to fight. He's there to, you know, be the warrior that he is known for. And I think that shows with his weapon style and the moveset that they gave him throughout his playability. Now, moving on to his voice acting. His voice acting is relatively okay. It's relatively good. The latest game to me is probably his worst. It's like his worst voice acting.
Asked to die. Together. The same year, the same month, on the same day.
I think his best voice acting was probably Dynasty Warriors 6 through 8. That's probably what I am used to him sounding like.
I think that you and I have never had this happen to us. We agree on something.
I like the earlier games as well. Dynasty Warriors 3, 4, and 5. He sounded really cool as well.
Hurry! Those rats from Wu are after my brother!
But Dynasty Warriors 9, it's not super bad, but it's like, you could definitely tell there's a difference in the voice acting, and it kind of plays, you know, Zhang Fei is not the brightest when it comes to characters among the Shu Kingdom and the characters in the game in general. And it kind of plays on that a little bit. It just sounds like that's the way they're going because, you know, he's a very reckless, you know, thinks with his emotions kind of thing. And he kind of is easily manipulated with his emotions based on how he's feeling. Of course, he's got his drinking problem. He likes his wine. He likes his alcohol. And that also plays into that factor as well. But for the most part, it was relatively okay. I didn't have too much to complain about with his voice acting. It fits him. He's got that coarse, that, you know, rough edge to his voice that completes the look of the character and definitely fits his personality for who Zhang Fei was. Alright, moving on to his significant battles, his relationships with other officers, and of course his death. Let's start off with his significant battles. Zhang Fei has been part of a lot of battles. He's been part of Liu Bei since the beginning of his campaign, the beginning of, you know, pursuing his vision of building a land of benevolence ever since the Yeltsin Rebellion. I would say the most significant battles for Zhang Fei is probably going to be at Jiapi, Chengdu, and of course Changban. So Jiapi / like Hulao Gate, I would say, is a semi-important battle for Zhang Fei because that's when he gets to test his might against the mighty warlord Lu Bu. They kind of had a minor rivalry because they were similar equals in terms of strength, and Zhang Fei looked at him as a worthy opponent of somebody he could match. Of course, Lu Bu looked down upon Zhang Fei within the series and is like somebody that's, you know, not really worthy of his time or not really of that kind of strength to him. And of course, Zhang Fei, being the emotional character that he is, takes offense to that, gets angry pretty easily, and wants to prove himself that he can take on someone of that caliber. So that's why Jiapi and kind of the Hulao Gate were two important battles. In the earlier games, Zhang Fei and Lu Bu have a personal, like, one-on-one cutscene that they fight with each other just to prove, you know, just to prove that strength.
Why, you little... I finally caught up with you! I don't like you. Your face, the way you fight, nothing!
And then with the Battle of Jiapi, Zhang Fei was left behind in order to protect the territory of Jiapi, and Lu Bu seized it from him while he was under the influence.
First of all, you betrayed brother, who took you in when you needed help. And next, what's even worse, is you think you can emerge victorious in a fight against the mighty Zhang Fei.
And of course, with that happening, Zhang Fei wanted to redeem himself, and that of course built a bitterness and rivalry towards Lu Bu, for one, for betraying Liu Bei after he let him stay, you know, in their castle, in their home and everything like that, but of course making Zhang Fei look bad, and that resulted in the following battle. Moving on to the Battle of Chengdu, he played a major role with helping Liu Bei secure Chengdu and securing that piece of land in order to establish the Kingdom of Shu. Nothing too crazy where it was like extremely significant. I believe he had, according to history, a moment with Yan Yan. When he caught Yan Yan, he was going to execute him, but Yan Yan courageously said, if you're just going to do it, or something like that. And Zhang Fei was like, I admire your courage, I admire your bravery, and I want you to be part of the Shu Kingdom. That's kind of how Yan Yan came in. But he's a big part of that, helped Liu Bei grab that land. And of course, within the games, he helped convince Liu Bei who was on the fence about attacking because of family issues and bloodlines and everything like that. Zhang Fei was there to be like, hey, it needs to be done. We're tired of running, tired of being wanderers. Let's get a land of our own, and let's create that land of benevolence that you envision, because that's why we're all here helping you, because we want to make that virtuous and benevolent land. And then, of course, the final significant battle, the biggest battle, the thing that Zhang Fei, I believe, is known for in this game, the Battle of Changban. The standing at the bridge and holding off hordes of enemies as they try to catch up to Liu Bei, cut off his escape route, of course, capture him, and put an end to Liu Bei's visions and dreams. But Zhang Fei acts as the rear guard to Liu Bei's escape as he crosses the bridge, and any person that wants to cross that bridge has to get through Zhang Fei. I'm pretty confident every single game has a cutscene or event revolved around that happening. This was an event that was hard to get past, and when you're playing on the other team, when you're a part of the Wei Kingdom trying to get past Zhang Fei, depending on the difficulty you're playing on, will determine how difficult it is to get past them, whether or not you're going to fight him or you're going to try to run past him until he stops chasing you. Most of the games have him very powered up during this battle, and whether or not he's on your team or the other team, he's very, very powerful in taking down hordes of enemies, making sure Liu Bei can escape. Alright, now moving on to his relationships and his deaths. So the main relationships that Zhang Fei has within the series is going to be with Guan Yu and, of course, Liu Bei. Those are his sworn brothers. He has the closest relationship with those two. But he also has other relationships with Zhao Yun, Zhao Ji, and even though it's not super evident in the games, he obviously is going to have a relationship with his children, which is, of course, Zhang Bao and Jing Sai. So starting off with the most obvious relationships, of course, Guan Yu and Liu Bei, they have their sworn oath at the Peach Garden, one of the most iconic scenes within the Dynasty Warriors series. It's one of the first things that, one of the events or cutscenes that you see if you're playing with the Shu Kingdom, especially if you're playing one of those characters. You'll definitely see that cutscene. You'll definitely know what I'm talking about. Extremely close to those two because of that oath that they share, that they're going to live and build a land of benevolence, and they're going to die on the same day together. That was the oath that they made at the Peach Garden, and those are the three original establishing members of the Shu Kingdom, so they're obviously extremely close, and they're pretty much brothers. So they're going to have, so Zhang Fei's going to have a really close relationship with Guan Yu and, of course, Liu Bei. Next, his relationship with Zhao Yun was probably a little bit closer than the other people I've mentioned. Because Zhao Yun's been a playable character for a while as well. They've had a lot of interactions, and being both generals of Liu Bei, they're doing the best they can in order to bring Liu Bei's vision to life. Zhao Yun's also one of the earlier members of the Shu Kingdom. He wasn't there as early as Guan Yu and Zhang Fei, but he came in early enough to build that relationship with those three, to become somebody who was reliable and respected by Zhang Fei for his strength and bravery, of course, his courage, and everything that Zhao Yun was known for within the series. Zhang Fei and Zhao Yun had a lot of good cutscenes, a lot of good talks with each other in order to do whatever they needed to do in order to bring Liu Bei's current mission to life, or pursuing that vision of benevolence that Liu Bei wanted. And then the last three relationships I mentioned is just his family relationships. The relationship with Zhao Ji was more highlighted in the latest game because Zhao Ji became a playable character through the DLC, so you saw her interacting with Zhang Fei and talking to him, and of course, how that relationship blossomed and how they got to really, get close and everything like that. It wasn't like super in-depth or anything like that, but you can see the events they had with each other, the interactions. It was really interesting seeing Zhao Ji, who was the niece of Xiahou Yuan, who was part of the Wei Kingdom, and how she came to, love Zhang Fei and want to be a part of his life, and of course, have children, everything that happened with them. And then of course the relationship with his children, both Jing Sai and Zhang Bao. It's not really evident in the series. I don't think they really have a lot of cutscenes. If not, it's super limited because I don't think I remember too much. But of course, he's going to have an innate relationship with his family because it's, it's Zhang Fei's family. He's going to have a relationship with his kids. They do have a couple of cutscenes and events together when he's trying to talk to them and give them advice and everything. But it's not super evident. It's not like it's the way his relationship is with Zhang Fei and Liu Bei. Of course, those characters were added later, and they weren't as important as the main three founding members. But he has that relationship with his family, he has a relationship with his children. And now moving on to his death. For the longest time, I didn't really know how Zhang Fei passed away, and it was actually something that I always wondered about. And it wasn't addressed until Dynasty Warriors 7 and on. So Dynasty Warriors 7, 8, and 9 are the only games that really address his death. In Dynasty Warriors 7 and 8, it's both mentioned that his own men turn on him and actually end up assassinating and killing Zhang Fei before the Battle of Yiling. It was a very hard-hitting death because it was right after the death of Guan Yu. Liu Bei just found out that Guan Yu passed away, and then someone rushes in and tells him that, you know, Zhang Fei has also passed away. So Liu Bei not only has to deal with learning just that Guan Yu passed away, but now he has to deal with that Zhang Fei has also been killed as well. Dynasty Warriors 9 is the only game so far that actually explicitly has a cutscene for his death scene.
Hey, who sent you? Huh? Come on, why don't you say something?
There's another one?
And you can watch all of Zhang Fei's cutscenes and, you know, his fights and deaths. Everything is going to be in the description below. But for me, it's kind of sad the way he died. I think it was, at least the way they depicted it in the game, you know, he was, you know, obviously upset and, you know, not the happiest of person when he found out his sworn brother was killed. And I believe in Dynasty Warriors 9, he's talking about, you know, hey, we're getting up early. We're going to, you know, we're going to make sure that we're there. Crack of dawn, you know, if you're not there, you're going to get beat or killed or something. Of course, he's upset and he's letting his emotions take control of him. And that's what the games depict him. That's what happens. That's why he ends up getting killed. Of course, in this cutscene, he's, you know, he's drunk and, you know, he ends up getting killed because he's not, you know, of a sober mind and everything like that. He also had a interaction with Lu Bu, like I mentioned before, when Lu Bu took over the castle and Zhang Fei was drunk and trying to like fend him off and everything while drinking. I genuinely think that, at least in the game, Zhang Fei had a good heart and he was in the right place, but that's pretty much all I have for Zhang Fei, the wine-loving, mighty warrior, barbarian. I liked him as a character. He's not my favorite or anything. He's got his flaws personality-wise. He's not the kind of person that, you know, I would personally want on my team. He's very strong. Sworn brother to Liu Bei and Guan Yu, one of the most, you know, powerful and strongest warriors of that time in terms of raw strength. But that's pretty much all I have for Zhang Fei. That's how he's changed for the past 20 years. He pretty much remains the same. I'm pretty much going to be expecting him to look pretty much the same in the next game as well. Don't expect too much of a difference for him. But let me know what you guys think about Zhang Fei if you guys use him. I'm sure there are some Zhang Fei fans out there. He's one of the original characters of Shu. We are out of the 40s and now heading into the 30s. The more popular characters are right around the corner. And hopefully you guys are enjoying the series. And if you haven't seen your favorite character yet, hopefully you'll see them up in the higher numbers. But that's all I have, guys. Hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, definitely appreciate a like, comment, subscribe. Let me know what you guys think about Zhang Fei, if you guys use him, if you guys like him. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Thanks for watching, everyone.